Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And on tonight's episode, we're going to discuss the latest player to join the Orioles farm system as part of the Adley Rutschman trade, and that is outfielder Harold Rivas, who is a player to be named later, as was announced by the two teams last week. But first, we want to just acknowledge real quick, although Monday's game ended in disappointment, the Orioles are coming off a series win over the Tampa Bay Rays, taking 3 out of 4 down to Trop. They'll begin their series on Tuesday against the Yankees, tied with the Texas Rangers for the last wildcard spot. Of course, they are still a few games under 500. The bottom of the wildcard race in the American League has really not improved, but the Orioles hanging in there. Bob, what are your thoughts?
Who would have thought that? I mean, I don't know what is happening after tonight's game with this loss, if that drops us out of a playoff spot, but who would have thought after this past weekend, sweeping the Rays to get the 2 games under 500 would put us in the playoffs with obviously some time to go, but in that third wild card spot. Hey, I got to love the fight of this team. I think we talked about when the trade deadline happened that this was something that could not easily, but was in the realm of possibility of happening, even with trading Adley, who's off to a slow start with the Red Sox. Thank you for that, Ads. Always an Oriole at heart. And getting rid of Taylor Ward, Tyler Wells, who we hit 2 bombs off of tonight. Yeah, the team still has talent to do it, and they've proven it. Kobe Mayo is just seeing the ball much better, improving steadily as the year goes on, and he looks really good right now. Holiday has continued to improve as the year has gone on. Pete Alonso, deserving every cent of the contract he got so far to date. I mean, he's been crushing the ball. Gunnar seems like he's back. Starting pitch, it's still been pretty good. Brandon Young seems to be getting a little exhausted here, reaching a career innings pitch total, I should say. But yeah, we're right in the thick of this terrible AL final wildcard spot. So 80 and 82 might get it done, and then we can have the debate of what was a better season, 100 wins and getting swept into playoffs, or sneaking in at a under 500 record at 80 and 82 and then potentially winning one. That would be something, but it's at least we're still in it. Look, it beats 2025 when it was not even a shadow of a doubt that it was a terrible season that wasn't going to do anything. So at least there's a reason to tune in as we approach September. I'll take it.
Yeah, it's almost annoying. Just because, I'm not complaining about it being mid-August and having the opportunity to watch competitive Orioles baseball with playoff implications, but just considering the year that it's been, it's a pleasant gift. A lot of teams still heavily in the mix, though. A lot of games left to be played. You're at that point where you can see the finish line, but there's still so much actually left to go. All it takes is one team to go on a good 2-week run here, and they're going to run away with that final spot. And that could be the Orioles. It could literally be anybody. So, enjoy the gift as long as possible here. It's just annoying because where was this performance all year? Where was this performance for just a 1-month stretch? 2 months ago, it was just every post-game interview was just the same exact quotes of just, we got to get better. We got to step up. We know we're better than this. And they never did. They never did step up. And now it's mid-August, and this team, here they are, their backs were up against the walls. This was it. This was do or die. And you even got to the point where I would imagine there are a lot of fans still holding out hope that maybe this year could end on a high note, maybe buy a couple pieces at the deadline and see what happens. But then you end up turning into sellers at the deadline. And so I'm sure a lot of people probably packed it up at that point, and deservedly so, rightfully so. But then I will say, again, I'm not going to complain about playoff baseball, playoff atmosphere like baseball here in mid-August. I don't know when schools start up there in Maryland, but I know my son starts school on Thursday, so it's football's on again, back to school mode, all this stuff. But there's still quality Orioles baseball games that mean a lot each and every night. So enjoying that. But I will say at the same time, this past weekend, I think I watched 2 innings on Saturday. So didn't even watch the good series against the Rays. Family time, though. More important things than baseball this weekend. Rare opportunity to get the whole family together. So that was a lot of fun. But it's unfortunate, though, that it took until mid-August with their backs against the wall to hit this stride. But and I know we're recording this right after a loss, but still, you took 3 of 4 from arguably the best team in the American League. And so, yeah, credit to this team though for not giving up. Credit to this team for actually coming out and fighting. I was kind of looking at some of the numbers today, and like the Gunners' walk and strikeout numbers have been incredible this month. Tyler O'Neill stepping up in a big way. I think
CES.
yeah, that's a conversation we're gonna have to have here. I think Zach, you mentioned that a couple weeks ago about that being a segment. I think especially like at the end of this year, the CES conversation is going to be an interesting one. I think. I think my Cam Sanders fan club membership card's in the mail. It's coming.
Yeah.
There's always that guy. There's always that random guy that pops and helps the bullpen. Cam Sanders is that guy this year. He's a lot of fun to watch, but yeah, it's just kind of like, I'm not planting hints to my wife yet about a possible 4-hour trip up north for a playoff game, but I am enjoying this run. And we'll see. You got the Yankees for 3 and you got the Rays again, so we'll see how this week shapes out.
This will be a very important week as far as things go. Obviously, you're playing the Yankees and the Rays, the two teams, at least I think the Yankees are back to second place, but you got those guys at home. And then if we could just go 3-3 against them, I would take that. Then you got Cardinals, Athletics, Rockies in a row, all on the road. But those are 3 very winnable series to head into September where, it gets a little tougher. But at least if you could take advantage of that, put yourself in a decent situation.
Yeah, and certainly I hope that we're sitting here this time next week talking about at least a 500 record during that really crucial homestand against the Yankees and Rays. And we'll see, because we've been through a lot of ups and downs with this team this year. But for now, we'll ride this high into this week. And now we'll go and turn our attention to some minor league news. And that is that last week we learned who the final player was that was going to be acquired by the Orioles from the Red Sox as part of the Adley Rutschman trade. And our player to be named later was outfielder Harold Rivas, an 18-year-old outfielder who the Red Sox signed out of Venezuela as part of their 2025 international free agent class with a $950,000 signing bonus. Rivas made his professional debut in the DSL in 2025 and bumped up to the FCL this season. If you look at the baseline stats for Rivas, not the best numbers, 85 WRC plus, so about 15 points below league average as a hitter. But there was some good batted ball data there, which I'm sure we're going to dive into. And he has generally been ranking high on Red Sox prospect lists. I think the highest that I could find was 13th. Over at Fangraphs, Eric Longenhagen writing up a report there, noting that Rivas is a long-levered speedster. This is a direct quote here. Long-levered speedster whose defensive ceiling is meaningful because of his wheels and arm strength. And then also notes that offensively he has an aggressive swing, generates precocious bat speed for such a young, projectable hitter. So one question that we got a lot last week, and honestly one that I don't know that I have the answer to, was if this news had been announced a few days sooner, before our top 50 prospects list was unveiled last week, where would Rivas have ranked? I think it's pretty safe to say that he would have definitely been inside the top 50, but for me, it's still difficult to pinpoint exactly where. But before we get into that discussion, Nick, I just want to get your general thoughts on Rivas. His season at this point is over. I don't know that we'll see him in Delmarva over the final few weeks of this year, but the Orioles, at the very least, picking up another young, interesting outfielder to add to their organization.
Yeah, you're not expecting a prospect of this caliber, especially when you already got Ianson, you got Witherspoon, you got Azakar, and player to be named later. You figure, right, what was the report? Apparently, if Adley would have been delayed, it would have been Cash, but he came back at a reasonable time or when they expected him to, and so they added Harold Rivas. It was originally, I think, somebody announced him as part of the trade initially and then said no. Well, now it's him again. Just fascinating. Honestly, if you would have told me the trade was Ianson for Rutschman straight up, like I think that's an interesting conversation. Would that have been a good trade for the Orioles? Probably. But to add Rivas on top of this, like, yeah, a lot of question marks. It's the high risk, high reward profile. He's 18-year-old kid, hasn't hit single A yet, but like you mentioned the signing bonus there, nearly $1 million signing bonus, and every report I looked up Baseball America, he's in like every Baseball America article. Now, granted, Baseball America did hire Ian Cundall from SoxProspects.com before the season started, so maybe that's why there's a lot of Red Sox flavor over there, especially in preseason stuff. But there were a bunch of articles like what we learned this spring from Red Sox prospects. Rivas, pull side power in spring training. Of course, everybody mentions the speed and defense, like plus speed, potential double plus fielder out there in center field. But the three prospects at the spring breakout, or no, three potential breakout prospects for the Red Sox in 2026. Andy Azakar was one. Harold Rivas was another one. And that article mentioned above average 90 percentile EV, above average chase rate, above average end zone whiff. And a direct quote from that article said, he could grow into power and emerge as a standout everyday type outfielder in his early 20s. They're referencing in the big leagues. So high praise on that one. He was named one of the top 20 prospects in the FCL this year, along with Jamnardo Reyes and Jane Loray. And just like praise after praise after praise on Baseball America's side. So yeah, it just seems like no questions about the speed and defense. It's going to be about following the development of the bat. And yeah, I could see them not making his Delmarva debut this year, just because it also seems like from some of the articles that he might have been selling out for power that maybe he just doesn't quite have yet. And so maybe the Orioles, maybe they want more strength training. Let's get into that and let's see if there's more power. Or, hey, power's not going to be your game. It's speed defense, but let's improve the hit tool as much as we can, and let's rework the swing a little bit, the swing decisions, whatever they need to do down there in Sarasota, and just keep him down there. But regardless, 18-year-old kid, you look at Azakar, you look at Reyes, and you look at the EV gains and the improved batted ball data. Yeah, the numbers, the baseball card stats may not have been there, but the batted ball data took a big jump forward this year. Same for Rivas. So we'll see what he looks like in 2027.
Yeah, of course, this gets announced like the day after we released our top 50 update. That's typical for us. But hey, I'll take it, man. The rich get richer here. That trade, yeah, when they first announced it and Rivas was in it and you saw just the value across the board, you're like, wow, this is real. Pinch me. It wasn't real because Rivas wasn't in it yet. And then somehow he was. It's great. I can't complain about it whatsoever. Another 18-year-old, great defender in center field. I mean, that's all he's ever played is center field and DH. So clearly he can stick out there. Seems like he's got a good arm. He's got that power potential, right-handed bat. He's got a 6'2" frame. So it seems like he should be able to, kind of like Wilfred De La Cruz is expected to develop into the power. Got the swing for the power. Just need the muscle to match it and catch up to the frame. So yeah, love it. I won't say exactly where I had him just yet because it sounds like we're about to do that in a minute. But yeah, just incredible trade. I think just going off my personal list, we added a new number 1 prospect, 5, 15, and wherever Harold Rivas fits in, as well as Carlos Narvaez. For Adley Rutschman, who is batting under 100 since coming off the injured list and is not catching back-to-backs because they don't want him to get hurt again. Good luck with that, Boston. 2-6, I believe, since the trade. Yeah, not enough good things to say about it.
Yeah, I looked at Rivas' StatCast data. Now, mind you, this is incomplete, but max EV 108.5 miles per hour, 90th percentile EV 104.6 mile per hour. Because he can square up on the ball sometimes, and he does a good job of making contact on pitches in the zone, but if he was selling out for power a little bit this year, it might explain the dip in the numbers. And that is, I think, Nick, a very good point that the Orioles probably are going to want to figure out what the next step is for him. Is it trying to do some strength training or some different things to tap into that power? Or is it focusing more on the speed and defense and just improving the all-around hit tool for the time being? I will say that if I had to, just going off of the top of my head without really diving into my list again after just having done it recently and then factoring in how players are going to perform between now and our next update, which is only in a few weeks for patrons, I would probably have Rivas somewhere just outside the top 30 right now, but not that far outside. I think I had Steven Martinez 33rd on my personal list for the last update, and I feel like Rivas belongs somewhere in there because the reports about the speed and defense are much better than they are with Martinez. Both guys have questionable hit tools, but Martinez is also at low A, and you have to give him a little bit of a bump there. So I feel like he would be in that general cluster of maybe just outside the top 30, but certainly well within the top 40.
I can say exactly where I have him. I slotted him in. My frame of thinking was between him and Jamnardo Reyes. Who do I like better? And I think I like Rivas a little bit better than Reyes, just because the center field defense, I really like Reyes a lot. He's made it to low A at a similar age, and he's not really performing, although he did have a much better week this week than his first week with the Orioles. But just the fact that Rivas can play a dynamite center field and has some of the same upsides as Reyes does, I put him at 21. I have Reyes at 24, and Thomas Sosa at 31, Jordan Sanchez 33, Steve Martinez 38, just in comparison to those international outfielders there. I think he's got the highest upside of maybe any of them, mostly for the defense. If he can be Enrique Radfield with 30 home run pop, I mean, come on. But obviously, you're weighing the distance and how far he's got to go to reach those heights. But just the fact that he gets name checked everywhere, and clearly he's catching eyeballs. And yeah, the baseline stats aren't amazing, but did pop 6 home runs. I'm a big fan. So 21 for me on my personal list to prepare the patrons for the next top 50 update.
I'm looking at around, on my personal list, probably around 25 or so. So like behind, I would have him behind Jaden Loray, Reed Trimble, and Bradfield, and then probably put Rivas there, at 25. So then ahead of Gongora, although I might put Gongora ahead of him, actually, as we'll talk about Gongora later on. But yeah, definitely right ahead of Jamnardo Reyes for me. It's the speed and defense floor. I think just grading out as highly as they do lead me to feel pretty comfortable to have him somewhere in that range. Until I get my own eyes on him, though, and see like what the bat looks like, what the swing looks like. That will help a lot. Of course, that probably won't happen until next year. But yeah, for right now, I think if somewhere around that 25 to 30, those probably sounds like where he's going to settle on our overall list when we update it next month, which I think is pretty fair.
And yeah, that's a fair point that you both made, is that defensive floor being so, the defense making the floor so high.
Yeah, and just to reference the comment from Gary in the chat that, wow, was the Red Sox organization that bad that he's so low on ours compared to theirs? And no, I mean, well, before the trade deadline, I don't think their system was really that bad at all. But the Orioles, we talked to death about this, that, we didn't have those top 50 elite prospects until more recently, it seems like, with Ianson and Eric Booth Jr., Joseph Giroux, Caden Hunter, guys like that kind of popping up close to that range at least. But the Orioles had that depth. I think our top 20 is pretty good. So it was going to be tough for a guy that's 18 and hasn't even played full season ball to crack that for me.
Yeah. I mean, we go back to what Fangraphs, and they kind of do what, like 35 plus or 40 plus future value prospects is what Eric and them write up over there. And I don't know the exact numbers for a lot of the other organizations, but I mean, the Orioles have close to 70 prospects written up on Fangraphs, and that doesn't include Caden Hunter. Still, they have nothing up about him over there, but like that's deep. Like that is super deep. Yeah, you don't have before Booth Jr. and Ianson, you didn't have like the top prospects, but the depth I think was, I'm not going to say unmatched, but in rare air in terms of the depth. So I think when we're ranking those guys in this range, I think a lot of it just falls to like personal preference. Like if you're comfortable with the hit and what the data is showing right now, and you want to be more aggressive, I think that's perfectly fine and logical. And if you're more skeptical about the bat because he's still young, but that floor and defense giving you that high floor there, if you value Enrique Bradfield Jr. type prospects, I think that also gives him deserving of the top 30 and potentially even higher. But it's just, I feel like after, I don't know the exact number, once you get to, the 15 through, 30, even 40 range, a lot of it, some people could have a guy 15 to 20, some people could have him 35 to 40. A lot of equal, like future value type prospects there in that range, but it's just a matter of preference at that point.
Yeah, the buckets get deeper or wider as you it's like a pyramid as you go down, widens out a little bit. Also, like What was I gonna say? Oh my god. Lost it, man.
We'll head into our final segment now. Last call brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing. Did you get it back, Bob?
No, I'm just frustrated with myself. It was probably not even a good point, but I hate when that happens.
Well, we'll head into our final segment. Last call brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street. Checker Spot is not far from Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre- or post-game drink. But if you're not heading out to the game where the Orioles are out of town, Checker Spot is a great place to go and watch the game. Good beer to go along, good food, and plenty of TVs to follow the action. Plus, they're open 7 days a week, so be sure to check them out. Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street in South Baltimore. Now, for the first time, I think in a couple of weeks, we're going to bring back one of our core segments here in the last call section, which is our shout-out of players outside the top 30 portion of our top 50 for something good they've done recently, whether it's been a good game, a good week, or just something interesting in their stat line that we want to note. I'm going to start with Nick here because his hitter got a little bit of traction last week, at least in terms of discussion in our top 50 episode, because he had just been promoted from Delmarva to Frederick, and his first week at High A went very well.
Yeah, and first, real quick, just because we're not going to get a ton of prospect talk for some of the bigger names real quick. Enrique Bradfield Jr., these guys don't count for this segment, just a bonus. Enrique Bradfield Jr. had a near 1,000 OPS last week with 6 walks to 3 strikeouts. I didn't extrapolate that over longer weeks. I don't know if you guys have those, but Bob's got it. He rattled those off. But last week alone, Enrique Bradfield Jr. had a phenomenal week. Vahiva Loy led Chesapeake in at-bats and hit 318. Aaron Estrada hit 5 home runs with a 474 average. Struck out just 3 times. Brandon Butterworth got promoted to AAA. I think we'll talk about him in the next episode. And yeah, draft picks. I know we're going to talk about one in a second, but Eric Booth Jr. went 3 for 11, 2 RBIs and 6 walks. And Ty Head went 5 for 13, a home run, 4 RBIs, 3 walks, and 4 stolen bases. People noticing that Ty Head's home run looked a lot like Heston Kjerstad there with that swing. But yeah, just shout out to a lot of those top prospects having big weeks. And then the under the radar guys, DJ Layton was my actual pick for this segment here. Just his first week in High A, phenomenal. He hit 357, had a home run in his first High A bat to dead center, walked 5 times, stole 6 bases. So again, going to monitor the contact rates and the strikeouts, but he's at a point now also where I think it's kind of worth paying attention to a little bit more, where they put him in defense and how he shines there. But a phenomenal first week there for DJ Layton and Frederick. And for my pitcher, I'm going to stick in Frederick and go with Twine Palmer. Just activated off the IL this week. Missed about 3 weeks. I don't know what the injury was. I don't know if you guys know or not, but just returned this week. 2 shutout innings, no walks, 4 strikeouts, and just figured I'd throw his name out because a reminder that he's still only 21 years old, and he's got a 3.39 ERA on the year in High A, a 207 average against. Walks are down a bit this year. More swing and miss in the zone for Palmer. And if you look at his home road splits, in Frederick, he's got a 4.42 ERA. Only 2 home runs allowed, though, and 38 innings. And on the road, he has a 2.18 ERA across 33 innings with 1 home run allowed. So Twine Palmer is somebody who doesn't get mentioned. He is buried as far as the pitchers are concerned in the system, which, sorry, Twine, but that's a good thing. But he's going to be somebody who I think I dig into a lot this offseason and sit with some of his outings a little bit more, because I think he might be one of my fun picks to click in 2027.
Yeah, I like those picks. All right, I did remember what I was going to say. I was going to say, obviously, we don't track other organizations the same way we track the Orioles. So at least for me, I have no real confidence when I'm weighing our system against others. I can just think of just generally from year to year what this level of farm system would rank in. But it seems like a lot of outlets are coming out with their new farm rankings, and we're somewhere between 5 and 8, I would say, it seems like. So this system is getting some real recognition, even without like a real top of the line standout guy. So that's another reason why these guys are going to show up a little bit lower in our list. And yeah, I do have something a little more expansive on Enrique Bradfield Jr. Since June 19th, we're talking 176 plate appearances since then. He is batting .309 with a .397 on base percentage 766 OPS, 112 WRC plus. More importantly, it's like a 12% walkout, 12% walk rate, and a 16% strikeout rate with 20 steals in that time. So I think we're getting a little bit closer here. Maybe if September hits and that extra roster space, the Orioles feel like they need a guy that can play defense and seems to be starting to get on base a little bit more, striking out less. Maybe EBJ is going to get his shot this year. But for my picks, I went with a outfitter we just talked about, Steven Martinez, because he is not in our top 30 anymore. So I'm able to pick him. And I do want to shout out not just his week, but he's really improved this season as it's gone on. Overall, he has a 678 OPS, which is good for an 86 WRC plus. The power is starting to show up more in games. He's got 10 home runs with 9 doubles and 3 triples. The walks are down to like a 9% strikeout rate from 48.4 to 31.5 overall. But if you look since July 17th over his past 99 plate appearances, it actually looks quite a bit better. He's batting .253, the 795 OPS, 120 WRC plus, 14% walk rate. Get this. This will blow your mind if you watch Steve Martinez at all last year and the beginning of this year. 22% strikeout rate over 100 plate appearance sample. That's pretty good. 169 isolated slugging percentage. So making the progress I think the Orioles wanted to see this year. And for my pitcher, I'm going with Richard. Oh my gosh. It's a 28-year-old right-handed pitcher, 6'4" reliever who's never pitched in AAA. But he's been pretty good this year for the AA Chesapeake Bay Sox in 14 innings after coming back from the injured list and getting some action in the FCL and High A Frederick. He's got a 2.57 ERA over 14 innings pitched. It's a 33.3% strikeout rate, 10% walk rate. Let's get him to AAA, and hopefully he can try to make the majors before he turns 30.
I'll go with my picks now, and I'll stick with the theme of Bay Sox relievers. Micah Ashman is my pitcher this week. He had an excellent outing in relief against Reading on Friday. 5 strikeouts over 2 shutout innings, and his totals on the year now are very impressive. A 1.74 ERA goes to 1.85 FIP and a 39.4% strikeout rate to a mere 6.7% walk rate over 41 in the third innings pitched this season. Ashman fell just outside the top 50 in our midseason update, but I think we still regard him as the best pure relief prospect in the farm system. Hopefully he gets some time at Norfolk before this season ends. And then a new addition to our top 50, but a guy that is outside of our top 30 right now is infielder Jimmy Anderson, a 5th-round pick out of Heartland Community College. Now, remember, the Orioles actually drafted him in the 19th round in 2025. Couldn't agree to a deal. He went back to Heartland, had a very good sophomore year, and was picked up by the Orioles again and signed this time around. He appeared in his first official games as a pro last week with Delmarva, going 5 for 18 over that series. Nick just rattled off the numbers. Eric Booth Jr. and Ty Head a moment ago. They both had very good weeks, but you add Anderson to that trio of 2026 draft picks that went to Delmarva, had good debuts. As far as the outlook for Anderson goes, in a typical year, there would be a shot for Anderson to get time in High A before the season ends. College bat, probably going to start next year at Frederick anyways. We'll see, because there is a lot of depth in this system right now, so it is going to be harder for players to move up. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Anderson maybe gets a cup of coffee in Frederick towards the end of the year, and we see him get a few at-bats in the playoffs, extend the season a little bit, and get his feet wet for starting there in 27.
Yeah, Jimmy Anderson had a couple swings there where, especially some drives he had into the gap, where it's like, that's a little Jaden Loray, Nate George-esque kind of vibes there with that swing. So it was, Delmarva was the place to watch this week, because with those new draft picks, and those guys, all 3 of them showed up. I wish we could get maybe at least some UDFA arms down there in Delmarva. Give us a little something else, 1 or 2 more guys before the end of the year. But it's cool to see some of the younger guys, especially like Eric Booth Jr., show up this week.
And with that does it for this episode. We're going to be back later on this week to revisit our top 50 prospect list through a different lens, and that's me looking at the biggest risers from the preseason list, which was released in February, to the midseason top 50, which we just posted last week. In the meantime, you can check out our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Blue Sky. We're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon.com and sign up to become a member today at $3, $5, or $10 levels. You have access to bonus weekly shows from Bob, Nick, and myself, as well as monthly updates to our top 50 prospect list, patron-exclusive channels within our Discord community, and a new wrinkle here. Right now, we are offering patrons a 20% discount from our new merch store for hats and shirts. We'll have more details about the merch store on next week's show, but if you sign up to become a patron, you'll receive the promo code, and you can purchase a hat or shirt from us at a discount. From Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You're listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.